Hey, EO Alive, thanks for joining us today. We're here again for the CHD update. And like always, I appreciate Carrie being here with me. And what a what a whirlwind we just continue to be in, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I have been reflecting a lot this week as we kind of get closer to the end of the year. And, I know you and I have talked about it before, but it's hard to imagine that when we started tracking this in January, I don't think any of us expected that we would still be in the middle of it in December. But, I feel like this week has definitely given us some hope for a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. So, and we'll just keep moving forward like we have been, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more progress towards vaccine and getting back to some sense of normalcy at some point in the future.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Let's start there. What do you know about the vaccine? How do you think it's going to be distributed to Union County? Do you have any information concerning any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to talk about vaccine. I'm sure that many of your viewers saw this week the first shots of the vaccine being given to healthcare workers in the United States. And so we know that vaccine has arrived in Oregon, and we know that some Oregon residents have also gotten the vaccine. So it's really very hopeful, very exciting news to see that we're able to start giving our healthcare workers some protection. So they're going to be able to continue providing care to people that need it. So what I know is that there's still a lot of information that I don't have. It's a pretty fluid process. We're learning more each day. I know that the state of Oregon has gotten an allocation of the Pfizer vaccine, that it's on the ground and being distributed to hospitals and healthcare systems. They right now are going directly to hospitals so they can vaccinate their employees with the sole goal of being able to maintain operations. We know that we need the healthcare system to be in place to take care of people. We've talked about this from day one, how we needed to maintain our hospital capacity, and focusing on our healthcare providers in the hospital setting first with the supply that we have now is how we're going to accomplish that. So right now they're going out to hospitals and healthcare systems. I don't have like a list of which hospitals are getting it on what date, how many they're getting. Like, I don't have that level of detailed information. I also know that we're getting closer to emergency use authorization for the Moderna vaccine. As soon as that happens, I expect it'll roll out exactly the same way it did with the Pfizer vaccine, and maybe even more quickly, because that vaccine doesn't require the same ultra cold storage. So I think it makes it a little bit easier to move quickly. There's not as many steps that need to go into the protection aspects of it. So more to come, honestly. Like, I wish I had more concrete information. What I do know is that we're going to continue to prioritize those, what they're calling the 1A group, which are really our healthcare providers, the people that we need to have available if we become ill. And then it'll, eventually move out of the hospital systems and reach providers that are working in outpatient settings. And then, of course, looking at some really key critical infrastructure like, EMS. We need EMS as well if we're going to take care of people in the hospital. So there's definitely more to come on that. And I think that we'll just learn more over the next month about what that looks like. And then beyond that, the other piece I think is really critical, and I want to make sure that people know we are prioritizing long-term care facilities and congregate care settings. So they're right at the top of that tier 1A, along with our hospital systems, and just really wanting to make sure that we get the employees of those settings and the residents of those settings vaccinated, because we know that those have been the places where we've had the most severe outcomes, where we have pretty significant spread. It's really hard to contain in those environments. And then we know that a lot of our vulnerable populations live in those settings. So those are kind of the two priorities. And then after that, we get into the essential worker group, which is pretty broad. And so I think we'll expect more delineation of that to come out over the next few months.
All right. And so for our viewers that are tuning in live here, you have the opportunity, if you have questions, you can put those in the comments and we'll try and address those. And then also, as we're talking about different things there in the comments, there are also some websites that are pertinent to the conversation that you can be sure and check out also. So do you know yet whether we have any of the vaccines here in Union County? Do you have any thought about that?
No, I don't know if we've received any here in Union County. The hospital would be the one that would get the allocation directly. This initial round is going directly to hospitals, so that would be a question for Grand Run Hospital.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's talk about, I mean, some of these things we've talked about over and over again, contact tracing and how critical that is. I know that, you know, we hear from some community members that they're afraid to answer the calls or afraid to be a part of the surveys because the disruption that it might be in their life. But maybe speak about why that's important. You know, why is it important that they cooperate with that contact tracing aspect?
Yeah, I'm really happy to talk about this. I understand that people might have concerns about getting a call from public health or, you know, sharing information about themselves or about their close contacts with public health. And so, you know, I just, I want to talk to our community about why that process is important and what we're trying to accomplish out of that process. So, you know, I know we talk a little bit, I look at the reopening criteria, and it's not even called reopening criteria anymore. Sorry, we have the risk categories. So, you know, right now we're operating in the state of Oregon under these risk categories that basically kind of dictate what types of activities we're allowed to have in our community. And then we have school metrics that are also, you know, guiding decision making around whether or not students can be on-site learning or need to do comprehensive distance learning. And so, you know, all of those factors, those metrics that we're looking at to make these decisions are based on case counts and test positivity. And so the way that we can influence those numbers is by identifying people that have the virus and having them isolate so they don't get any other people sick, so our numbers go down. Or identifying people that are truly at high with a confirmed case and having them quarantined. So then if they do develop the illness because they're at high risk for developing it based on their contact, they will not spread it to anybody else unknowingly, because we know that there could be a period of time where you're contagious and have no symptoms and don't know you have it. We know that people are asymptomatic and have the virus and never know that they do. So it really is the tool that we have to say, you have the virus. If you don't want anybody else to get it and to get our numbers to go down, then you stay home. And if you're a contact with a confirmed case, then we basically, what this allows us to do is give you the information so you can take action, which will allow our numbers to go down. And then we can get back to maybe having more normal activities than we do when we're in these extreme risk categories. So I just really see it as so important for how we limit the spread, how we get our numbers to go down. It's going to be the best way to do that, and really our primary tool right now.
And so then you guys have coordinated some testing events to kind of help with this. Talk about that a little bit, Carrie, and when your next event is and what you're doing there.
Yeah, and so, you know, when I was talking about the case investigation and contact tracing, I know that I have heard more than one person talk to me about how they don't want to get tested because they're concerned about driving our numbers up. And what I really want the community to realize is that actually getting tested is the way that we get our numbers down, because it gives you information that allows you to take action to limit the spread, which in turn gets our numbers down. So we are offering testing events that will allow people to get that information. Obviously, if you're symptomatic or you think you've been a contact to a confirmed case, we'd really encourage you to take advantage of these testing events. We have one more coming up that's scheduled for Monday. They run from 11 to 4. And all you need to do is go to the website, doineedacovid19test.com. And you follow a really very simple registration process. And you can select an appointment time. And it's really easy. It's actually a drive-through testing event. And we're using the self-administered nasal swabs. So they're painless. They don't go super far up your nose. You actually just do it yourself. And then the other nice thing about these testing events is that obviously it's quick and you can get through the line fairly quickly and you don't have to have a painful test. And you can also get your results directly from that website that you sign up on. So they'll send you your results directly. Normally, if you go to your provider, you have to wait for them to call you. If you come to public health, if they go to public health, we have to call you. So it basically reduces the amount of time that you're going to have to wait for those results, in addition to the fact that these have a pretty decent turnaround time compared to some of the other tests we are able to use at public health. Their results are coming back in about 3 to 5 days. So it's a really decent turnaround time. So again, it's just a simple way, like I said, for you to get that information. If you think that you might have COVID-19 based on your symptoms, or if you think that you've come into contact with somebody that does, go check out doineedacovid19test.com, and you can get signed up for that event that's coming up on Monday.
And those websites, again, are in the comments for anybody who's interested in that. It gives them a link they can directly click on. So, and again, just to break it down to where we can understand it, the part of the risk factor that we are classified with is based upon the number of our positivity rate. And the positivity rate is based on the negative tests compared to the positive tests. And so then, just basic math is if you're only, if you're only testing people that you are highly suspicious of being sick, then you're going to have a high positivity rate. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah. The way that I see that, there's a couple of things that I think is important for folks to think about. One is that, test positivity is the number of positive tests compared to the total number of tests that you do. So, in theory, or the way that it works is the more negative tests we have compared to positive tests, the lower that number is. So, if we have people that think they are at risk and they test negative, that just helps, have that test positivity number be a little bit lower. So there's, again, it's not really driving up our percentages. I think the other thing that we find is that people may unknowingly have COVID. They may not have symptoms and have the virus. So if they get tested, it allows them to quarantine. So or isolate. So even if they do test positive, and that, again, may influence our test positivity rate, but over the long run, it's going to allow us to have fewer cases because they're going to be able to take action to stop from spreading it to others. So, I think that test positivity rating, case counts, we really want to try and get them down, and testing is a pretty helpful tool in giving people the information that they need to help reduce the spread.
And these tests that you are doing or that are available to folks, they register ahead of time. There's no cost. They don't have to have insurance. Literally, they register and they show up, and the information is sent directly to them. So it's if somebody is suspicious, or even if they're curious, if whether their cold is something, then there's an advantage to them to being able to do that. There's not really a downside, if I'm understanding it right,
Yeah, I don't see any downside in it. Like I said, you might think you don't have it and find out you do, but even, maybe it's a downside to have it, but then you have the information that you need to protect your family and friends and the community.
Right. Yeah. So the governor has had some risk classifications. Yesterday there were, I mean, when you look at the map, it's like, I don't know, maybe 80% of Oregon is in the high risk category, which is another topic. But and and you and I, and specifically you don't have any control over what the governor classifies. You're just doing the job. You're doing your job. But if you can help us understand uh, the risk categories, everybody almost is at high risk right now or extreme risk. Um, uh, what does it take? I guess the bottom line is, what does it take to get out of that category? Because that category is affecting business, it's affecting restaurants. I mean, so what does it take to get out of that category?
Yeah, the map of the state right now looks completely red, which is the extreme risk category classification. So, this is definitely not something that's just happening in Union County. So, a lot of the state is in the extreme risk category. The decisions for, like you said, these are metrics that were put forward by the governor. So, they're, again, metrics that we're all being asked to follow in the state. So the two categories that we're looking at to basically move between the risk categories are case counts and test positivity, like we discussed. And so, really the way that we move between those categories is to have fewer cases and decrease our test positivity rate. And so, these testing events, again, I know that it may, I feel like it's easy for people to think that by getting tested that they're going to negatively impact those numbers, that by getting tested they're going to increase our test positivity rate. But if you look at our test positivity rate for the last week, the numbers that just came out earlier this week, it actually went down. And so those testing events are actually helping drive our numbers down. They're not increasing the test positivity. And our cases are trending down as well. So, again, I feel like this is why it's really critical for us to get tested so we know, so we can take action. And then also, if you get a call from public health, help us by answering the call, help us by working to identify your close contacts, because these are the tools that we have to decrease case counts. Along with all the other things that, your viewers have heard me say probably every time I've been on here, which is all the mitigations that we've asked people to put in place, the staying home if you're sick, physical distancing, face coverings, and hand washing. So when we put all of these things together, that's how we get to lower numbers.
So talk about case count a little bit and how that, how is that calculated? I mean, other than just, yeah, we have this amount of cases, but how does that number factor into the risk category that we are assigned?
So, the risk categories have a straight case count number. So it's like however many cases you have. I believe they're using a 2-week time period for that, those determinations. So however many cases you have over that 2-week period, and then you just look at the different categories to see what those numbers are. And they're all available on the governor's website, the coronavirus.oregon.gov. And so again, currently we're in that extreme category, which is greater than or equal to 60 cases in a 14-day period. So again, for us to move down through the categories, we'd need to have fewer than 60 cases in a 2-week period. And then again, it just goes down from there. So folks can get on the website and see all of that information and kind of understand where those numbers fall. But yeah, it's definitely just based on case count. And then they look at the one that's higher. So like if we had a test positivity rating and a case count rating that weren't in the same categories, which I think we might have this reporting period, they're going to look at the one that's higher and put us in the higher category.
So, and the case count must be, and I haven't looked at that, but it must be based somewhat on population. I mean, for instance, like, you take a way more populated county than us. Certainly, they have a bigger allowance than 60 than what we do. And do you have a sense of how that number is calculated?
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for asking that. Actually, if you're a county that's under 30,000 in population, they're using case counts for the decision making. If you're in a county that's greater than 30,000, they're using case rates for decision making. So the case rate is calculated by how many cases per 100,000 you have. So it's a different calculation for a large county. So it's just we're in that under 30,000 group that's just looking at case counts.
Okay, great. So then and 30,000 is the cutoff. So yeah. Okay, so we can. Okay, at least I think I have my head around that, and I think that part of the discouragement part is that, and again, this is totally out of our control. It's my own personal comment, and that is that when a large percentage of the state is in the extreme risk category, it makes you wonder how reasonable the metric is set up personally, because because it seems like it's kind of like if you're teaching school, you're going to have a wide range of kids they come in at they get different scores on different things, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And if in order to get an A for a kid, you only have 5% of the or 10% of the population that's getting A, B's, or C's, or A's or B's, then somewhere along the line, the grading system might be a little wacky. And at the end of the day, it's hope. That's the problem is that if a population, it doesn't matter what it is, if you can't find your way of being able to succeed at something, then it's like, we can't succeed anyhow, so it doesn't really matter. And that, again, that's, if the governor asked me to be on her public relations team, then I would tell her that. But so far, I haven't gotten that call. So, all right, well, so talk to us. I'm having a blank here. What is something else that's pertinent for us to talk about today, Carrie?
Oh goodness, now you're going to make me have a blank too. I think that I can definitely understand that discouragement that you're talking about. And you look at that map and it's all red. And I've been there before where I'm like, oh well, it's like it's so far. It feels out of reach, right? And so I'm not exactly sure what, factors went into the decision making around how they set the metrics. And I feel like my job is to provide information that allows you to have control over influencing those metrics, which is really what, I've been trying to do today. And I understand the frustration. And I've talked with you before about how I really understand the impacts this is having in our community in so many ways. And I really, that's why I come on here every week and I say, like, we can change these numbers. We've done it before. We've gone up and down before, and we do have control and we do have the ability to, influence them with these things that I've been sharing. And so, I think as we look forward to vaccine, the hope that comes along with that, I think the reality is that it's going to take some time for that vaccine to protect our communities and, protect our most vulnerable residents. So we're going to have to keep doing these things that, we've been asking folks to do all along. So, I think the one other thing, I also want to make sure to remind our community that because I recognize that this has created a lot of hardships for folks in our community. And I we're talking about contact tracing and case investigation. And, sometimes I understand people may be hesitant to provide us with information or answer our phone calls because it will have like real concrete impacts on them if they're asked to stay home for a certain period of time. And so I really want to remind people that we have resources in place that can help you get through that period of time. We have wraparound services, which I've talked with you about many times, but people can get help with food. They can get help with covering some of their expenses. So there are resources available to help them take that action that we're asking them to take to, again, get our numbers down, reduce the risk category that our county is in. So I just want to make sure people remember that that's an option. So maybe that will help them with their hesitation for working with us on this.
Yeah, and that information, you can't see it, it's on the screen, and I know it's in the comments also. So yeah, really, really good information for people who might be struggling during this time, dealing with COVID or dealing with sickness, something that they can help themselves or help them mitigate some of that stuff. So we're getting ready to have another holiday, and what do you advise for folks that they're going to spend time, I mean, and again, this is the same information that we've gone over so many times, but talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, and we're getting ready for another holiday. We're coming up on Christmas and New Year's and a lot of other celebrations that we normally do this time of year. And I know we've talked about this before. And I was looking at the date and reflecting on our numbers over the last few weeks. And, it appears to me that we have maybe not had a really large spike or bump in cases after Thanksgiving, which gives me hope that people did think about maybe doing their holiday a little bit differently, maybe reducing their gathering sizes, staying with their household members, or maybe having smaller groups of people gather. And so I think again that just gives me hope that we can do it, and that we are willing to take some of those actions that are really just not forever, just for now. And I know that I've had some really tough conversations with my own family, and honestly, definitely had some sadness and about the fact that we don't get to celebrate the holiday the same way this year, and that we have to do things a little differently. But I keep remembering that we know the groups of people in our community that are most likely to have a serious or severe outcome. And unfortunately, even though our case counts are trending down, we have had a number of deaths over the past few weeks. And that's really what we're trying to avoid by asking people to change their plans. Because the reality is that in 3 months, the people that may get COVID-19 today and have a really serious case of the disease and possibly even pass away are the people who will be vaccinated really soon. And so I think that we just need to continue taking the same actions that we're taking, that doing a good job of limiting our interactions with people outside of our household, limiting our gathering sizes to the greatest extent possible to reduce the spread to the higher risk members of our community. And then by this time next year, they'll all be vaccinated, those that want the vaccine, and we will be able to have them here next year for all of the holidays that we want to celebrate with them.
And like we talked about before, there's nothing that keeps people from being creative and connecting with each other via video or Zoom or whatever the case might be. We had our Rotary Christmas luncheon yesterday, and we did that via Zoom. We had some musicians that we had planned on playing for us in person, and they weren't able to be there. None of us were together. And so, but they were on the Zoom conversation, and they were in their homes in Pendleton and played for us, so it was still, I'm always surprised at, how meaningful those things still are. It's not the same, but it's not without meaning. And Yeah, and I just, I agree with you. We just need to encourage people to, uh, there's things that you can do to connect with the people that you love, and don't use this as an excuse to not be responsible in connecting with them. Because there are ways around it. There are things that no, it's not the same, but there's still things that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you giving that example, because I do think we can be creative, and again, it's not forever. And this is how we make sure that we just keep people safe for this next phase. The next phase. I mean, I feel like we've moved into a different phase of our response. And so we just need to go a little bit longer before we have that vaccine to create more protection for people in our community.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Carrie, thank you as always for what it is that the messaging that you put out. Thank you for, it's a little bit of a thankless job for what you're doing. I know you're just the messenger. You're just passing on the information. And so I really appreciate those that and there's a whole herd of people behind you that are working with you to make that happen. And,
Yeah, definitely.
our frontline workers, I mean, it's just a whole ton of people that have kept us going. I mean, I think of the teachers. I mean, you talk about students being stressed and having to learn at home. I can only imagine what it's like for a teacher to totally change their style of teaching, and they're having to adjust. I mean, and we could point to uh, many different people that are trying to recreate their businesses. They're trying to recreate their jobs. Everybody is at a disadvantage in one way or another, and I just appreciate what you guys do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty. And Merry Christmas. And
Thank you.
I'm trying to think, I think we have our next time when we're together will be after. I'm trying to remember. I don't have. Is there a Wednesday before the new year begins? I don't have
I
a
think
calendar.
so.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see you. So we'll see you at the very tail end of this year, and I appreciate. It's on the 30th. So thank you. And Eagle Alive, thank you for joining us. And again, I kind of want to echo what Carrie said, and that is that, just be kind. This is a season when you have the opportunity to show grace and love to each other. And there are people, there's some people that COVID is not affected hardly at all. I was talking with a farmer the other day, and his life has not changed a bit because most of the time he works in isolation, and he's not been at risk, and he's just continued to do his job. But there are other people that have lost loved ones, and I have a personal friend in Idaho who lost his father, and to those people, COVID is a very serious thing. I mean, you lose a family member, and that's going to increase your identity to that particular disease. So I just keep in mind that, COVID is this strange thing that has chosen to impact some people's lives and not others. And we still do know what we need to do. Be conscious about washing your hands and staying away from people when you're sick, and all of those things. It's not really much of a burden to do. And I guess I would encourage you to be conscious, be courteous to each other, and especially during this season. So, and I hope that you have a Merry Christmas.